Shit, I gotta...
He gives the left line.
Alright guys, we're here from Melbourne. We've already got a bit of a crowd growing here at 10 o'clock on a, what day is it? Saturday. 1 of 4 rallies is the first one. We're starting here, share it with the world. We'll go around, catch what's going on. We're going straight from here to Sydney, then off to Brisbane and Perth. And I just realised it was the Queen's birthday, so we could have done Adelaide and Canberra to celebrate the Queen's birthday. But we realise these things too late. Share it with everyone, get everyone involved. Melbourne, Australia, we're here with Tommy, we're here with Sonia, we're here for free speech, we're here to free Australia. Get around. We're starting in about 10 minutes, guys. But that's about it.
Find out who you are not allowed to came out. Yeah.
Tommy resonates with a lot of people. He's a working class man. He's like a typical Aussie to most people, and they feel
Tommy!
they feel like what he says is our future here too. And the fact that Sonia is now being Tommy proves the point.
Tommy Robinson!
Look at you, you're on fire. I want a bit of what you're on. Alright guys, so quickly before we start, I'm going to ask you, there's signs that we've got here. There's a heap of them here, grab one. But when we close it up, we're going straight from here to the airport. We've got about 3 minutes to pack up, so I'm going to ask everybody to help us quickly by putting all the signs together, bringing them straight back so we can jump in a car and head straight to the airport, because we are going across the country to let Australians know, let our government know, let the British government know that we stand with Tommy, we stand with Sonia Kruger, we stand for free speech, free Tommy, free Australia. Hey, Tommy, Tommy! Tommy, 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 Tommy Robinson! Hey, Tommy, Tommy! Tommy, 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 Tommy Robinson! people how many people we have here on a Saturday morning. We have beautiful stickers made by one. I'm not gonna point him out because his business may suffer from it, but he's printed absolutely beautiful stickers, and there's another guy in Perth that's done the same. Aussies are speaking. Aussies are putting their money where their mouth is. They've had enough. And if this can happen to Tommy today, it'll happen to all of us tomorrow. So stand up and fight to defend your freedom of speech today or lose it tomorrow. That's what this is about. Alright, we're going to start a little bit early because we're excited. Alright, we're going to start with, as we always do, recognise the best country in the world, Australia. We're going to start, and we will never end up like the UK, no matter what they say. We're going to start with the Australian National Anthem. Thank you very much. Thank you to everyone who came out this morning. I know it's nice and cold, but everybody's taken a little bit of uncomfort. They've sacrificed a little for somebody who has sacrificed so much for our freedom of speech. Now, when we sing the Australian anthem, it says we're young and free. And by God, we are going to stand up and fight to ensure that freedom continues. Freedom of speech is the fundamental right of every Australian, and it is supposed to be the right of every single British citizen too. Now, for those of you that don't know what happened to Tommy, where the hell have you been? But Tommy, a journalist, one of the last, and I'm not going to apologise to the journalists in the crowd, one of the last real, authentic, honest, non-fake news journalists today was reporting on grooming gangs, Muslim grooming gangs in the UK. We call them rape squads, who were grooming young children as young as 11 to rape and turn them into sex slaves. He was jailed for 13 months. 13 months he got more than most of these rapists get. We're here to stand up and tell the government to free Tommy. Because we are all Tommy Robinson. And if this can happen to him, if this can happen to a man that stands up and defends our rights, it can happen to any of us. And we're here today because not only is it happening, not only did it happen to Tommy Robinson, it's already starting to happen here. We have our very own Sonia Kruger, who dared to have an opinion on our immigration potential Islamic terrorists to our country, a ban that would have protected our nation. Now she is being dragged through the courts because she somehow has crossed a line that has become now this line that that political correctness, that we must be politically correct to minorities, no matter what they do, no matter what they say, no matter what they're going to cause in our country that we love so much. So we're here today to stand with Tommy, stand with Sonia, and most importantly, stand for freedom of speech and to stand for the right to discuss anything. I'm going to hand the microphone over. So these do you want me to hold it for you?
Yeah, I can't hold that and do this.
I'll do. You do. So this is Debbie. Debbie is the president of the Australian Liberty Alliance, who has backed all these campaigns across the country. In fact, backed every campaign I've done so far. Whilst most people try to distance themselves from the little Arab, she has backed it. And I want to give everyone, put your hands together for Debbie Robinson and the Australian Liberty Alliance.
Thanks for coming here today, and can you hear me? Yeah, look, I first met Tommy Robinson way back in 2012 at a counter-jihad rally in Stockholm. And on that day, we were surrounded by thousands of barbaric people who wanted to kill us. There were police, there were horses, they were throwing Molotov cocktails, and it just goes to show how free speech can be silenced. And the police were there not because we were violent, but because, this is so hard, not because we were violent, but because all these demonstrators were trying to break through the barriers and get to us to silence us. I met Tommy again in New York City that same year at another conference to stop Islamization of nations. And he talked about the problems that they were having in the UK, and that there was no organisation there. Now at that time we had a group called the Q Society, which we still have. And over the years we've organised tons of rallies and international events to raise awareness about Islam and what is going on with our freedom of speech. And Geert Wilders' first tour in 2013 proved to be the most difficult. And Wilders, like Tommy Robinson, is vilified and prosecuted and lives in constant fear for his life. And the realization during that first tour that Australia is further down the path of political correctness and appeasement was the reason we formed this party, Australian Liberty Alliance. Because it's not enough to just highlight problems anymore. We have to take a political stand and be agents for change, and that's what we're doing. So like all the other freedom fighters around the world, we're working very hard to stop what's happening. We are vilified, threatened and abused, but make no mistake, the more we're opposed, the more we will stand and fight. And just take a look at the banners we have here today with the names of people who've been murdered or have to live under police protection for speaking out or for criticising Islam, like Ayaan Hirsi Ali, the Dutch filmmaker, Theo van Gogh, Pim Fortuyn, the politicians, and the people that were slaughtered at Charlie Hebdo for drawing cartoons of Muhammad. And to sentence someone like Salman Rushdie to death because he wrote a book is barbaric. And that is all because under Islamic Sharia law, criticism of Islam is forbidden.
Shame on Islam! Shame
on Islam! But the most disturbing thing about all of this is that our government, our political leaders and taxpayer-funded groups like the Human Rights Commission, together with our mainstream media, are all part of the problem. And Kevin Rudd, I will give you an example. In 2012, when he was Labour Foreign Minister, he invited Professor Isanoglu, the Secretary General of the OIC, to come to Australia. Now that professor came here, he did a world tour, and it was to educate us all about Islamophobia. And he was given to free rein to speak at the National Press Club at Griffith University, which by the way also has a resident imam. Now in stark contrast, the National Press Club, along with many other venues, refused an elected member of a democracy the right to speak. But back to the makes up the largest voting bloc of the UN. They are united in their effort to limit critical discussion of the Islamic religion and Sharia law. All of these countries refuse to adhere to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and they're headquartered in Saudi Arabia. They have their own version of rights called the Cairo Declaration, and that's subject to interpretation by Islamic clergy and Sharia law. And remember, Kevin Rudd, the Labour minister, brought this guy to Australia and promoted him. We've got Chris Bowen, who delayed Geert Wilders' visa for over 6 weeks in 2012, and in that same period he fast-tracked visas for Sheikh Tariq al-Suwaidan, the leader of the Muslim Brotherhood in Kuwait. That sheikh had no trouble getting a venue and talking at Monash University, and I attended all of those events. And our mainstream media make matters worse by not reporting the truth, not reporting anything at all, and completely sanitizing and whitewashing Islam. And in this country we have the most ridiculous hate speech laws which need to be scrapped. Yeah. We have our own heroes in this country, including Andrew Bolt, the late Bill Leake, and the students from Queensland University of Technology, and the pastors from Catch the Fire Ministries, even Bernard Gaynor. They've all been dragged through the courts for exercising their right to free speech. The Nine Network in Australia, Avi's just talked about Sonia Kruger, made comments about Muslim immigration. Ho ho. Most people in Australia would agree with Sonia Kruger and what she said. Yeah! Now she's been dragged through the courts, along with Channel 9, by a Muslim who's been running many other cases, one long-standing one against broadcaster Alan Jones. But if you're a friend of Hamas, or represent the Islamic Council of Victoria, or you're a member of a visiting Islamic hate preacher, or a member of Hizb ut-Tahrir, you can have all the venues you want in this country. The streets are yours. And we witnessed a few weeks ago at a pro-Palestinian rally up the road here, just who was able to speak. And we were the ones who were moved on.
Shame! Shame!
The real masters are the ones we're not allowed to and we're too afraid to criticise. But guess what? It has to stop, and that's why every single one of us, every single one of you that's here today, let it be known that we've had enough of this crap and we're not going to take it anymore. And we face exactly the same issues in Australia that Britain and Europe have faced for years. Mass immigration, the failed experiment of multiculturalism, political correctness, and all the rest of that rubbish. The idea that all cultures are equal, regardless of how illiberal or barbaric they are, is insane, and it's contributing to the demise of our civilization and the erosion of our free speech. So that's why we're here today, to highlight the plight of Tommy Robinson in the hope that he be set free, and let it be known that we will never stop fighting for our right to speak freely. Freedom is something our forefathers fought and died for. It's the most valuable thing we possess. And I'll finish off with a statement from Bruce Bower. In his book, he talks about freedom. Freedom is the single most precious prerequisite to a dignified human existence, especially the first freedom, the freedom from which all other freedoms flow, and that is freedom of speech. Thank you for coming here today. I love you
day when the mainstream media talk about Tommy Robinson, they love to frame him as the former EDL leader. They love to call him names like a racist. Let's get this straight. Islam is not a race. Islam is a religion. Islam can and should be criticised. And we will fight for his right to criticise it. We will fight for our right to criticise it because we are in a Western free democratic society. Now I'm going to call out, Tommy, Tommy, Tommy! Oi, oi, oi! Tommy, Tommy, Tommy! Oi, oi, oi! Tommy, Tommy, Tommy! Oi, oi, oi! Tommy! Oi! Tommy!
Oi! All right, I'm going to keep this short and sweet. Who here loves Tommy Robinson? Who here believes that instead of being in prison, Tommy Robinson should be getting an award right now? Who here believes that Tommy Robinson is a hero? Can you believe what's going on? We've got a man who has been reporting on pedophiles, a grooming gang. So what does the UK government do? They throw him in jail. Shame! Shame on the UK government. You know, the defining element of the uprising of a totalitarian government is the forceful silencing of free speech and the imprisonment of journalists. We've seen it all throughout history. We saw it in the late 50s in Cuba with Fidel Castro. In order to advance his very totalitarian communist agenda, the first thing he did was he silenced his opponents and he threw journalists in jail, and he even went to the extent of murdering many, many innocent people. We saw it in 1933 with the rise of Adolf Hitler, a terror campaign on journalists, silencing anybody who dared to speak out against the Nazi regime, in jail and murdered. 1979, the Iranian Islamic fundamentalist revolution. Exactly the same thing. Innocent journalists who dared to question the uprising of an authoritarian government thrown in jail. And I hate to say it, but we are seeing this today in 2018 in the United Kingdom. So, you know, maybe some people in Australia feel like, well, if it's going on in the UK, why do we need to worry about it in Australia? But as Avi said before, it happens today in the UK, it happens tomorrow here, it happens today, tomorrow to Tommy, but tomorrow it happens to us. So we need to stand with Tommy. Absolutely. And one other thing I want to add is that really standing up for Tommy should not depend on what your political affiliation is.
That's right, yeah.
Standing up for Tommy is a basic matter of human rights. Okay, so I just want to finish by saying that people who stand for dignity, justice and human rights stand with Tommy. Aussies stand with Tommy. Aussie, Aussie, Aussie! Aussie, Aussie, Aussie! 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 Aussie, Aussie, Aussie!
Are going to tell you that Tommy, he's not a martyr for freedom of speech. He was in contempt of court. And they threw him in jail for 13 months when other people, most people when they're in contempt of court get a fine. But Tommy must have been in real big contempt. The fact is, when anybody tells you that Tommy deserves to be in jail because he was in contempt of court, first I say to you, please explain to me which part of what he did was contempt. That's right. Was it the fact that he was filming on a street, not where it was banned? Was it the fact that he was reading from a newspaper facts that were already in the public domain? That's right. Or was it really that they just wanted him in jail, just like his mortgage fraud where he got his teeth bashed in by a Muslim gang in jail? I think it's the latter. And you need to open your eyes. The system, the government in the UK is using technicalities to bring down a man who is fighting for what is right now. And if we do not join him, if we do not join the fight, like Morgan just said, not about left or right, but if we stay silent, we will lose our freedoms the same way here. We already are. Look at Sonia. So, don't believe the fake news. Keep spreading the truth. Everybody here has a Facebook, YouTube, Twitter account. Don't let the narrative be run by these people, no offense with the cameras here. Bring back the narrative. Be honest about what is going on. Tommy is being incarcerated. He's being jailed simply for speaking out against Islam. And all the people being persecuted today in the West, being persecuted for exercising the basic and most fundamental right of freedom of speech, they're all being persecuted. They all have one common denominator. They dare speak out against Islam. You can say whatever you want about Jews. Nobody's going to behead you and you're not going to jail. You can say whatever you want about Christians. You'll probably get a bloody award. But if you dare speak about Islam, you go to jail. And that is not good enough. Say, hey, Tommy, Tommy! Tommy, 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 Tommy Robinson! Hey, Tommy, Tommy! Tommy, Tommy, Tommy Robinson! Tommy, Tommy, Tommy Robinson! Now they'll try to tell you that you are a racist for standing up. They tell Tommy he's a racist. They call me a racist. Let's get this straight. This is not about race. You can be black, green, blue, yellow. I don't care. If you love this country, if you love our freedoms, if you do not want them to be replaced by blasphemy laws, then you must stand with Tommy. You must stand with Sonia. You must stand for our fundamental right of freedom of speech and freedom of press, because without that, we are nothing and we are lost. We may as well move to Iraq.
Just to say, with regard to blasphemy laws, we already have a blasphemy law in Victoria. It's called the RRTA. So that's what happened to the two Catch the Fire ministers. They were taken to court under that law. So you have a blasphemy law in Victoria, and you've had it since, how long, when did it start here? 202.
So one of the we're starting a movement here. Now the movement is about taking back our fundamental right to freedom of speech. And we must pressure our government. And this is one of the Australian Liberty Alliance, one of their big what's the word I'm looking for? Not platforms, their policies, is to repeal both state blasphemy laws and we know of 18C, the federal blasphemy law. Get rid of that! Freedom of speech must be that. Free. No restrictions. Incitement of violence is something completely different. And if we're already going to talk about incitement of violence, we should be locking up most imams in the country. You go to any mosque on a Friday. You go to any mosque on a Friday. First they'll talk about killing Avi Yemini because he's a Jew. And then they'll be talking about killing you, the non-believer. So all good Australians, we should be standing up to defend our right to freedom of speech. And we should also be pressuring our government to clamp down on incitement of violence, with no matter what the excuse is, because religion is no excuse anymore. Hey, Tommy, Tommy! Tommy, 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 Tommy Robinson! Oh! up because we are going straight from here to the airport, and I thank you in advance for bringing all the signs straight back in. We're going to run these rallies across the country, but I want to explain to you because people ask me, well, running these rallies, is Tommy really going to get free? The fact is that the way they did it, the way that the government has stitched Tommy up again, there is not really a great appeals process. In fact, I don't believe there even is one.
He won't survive.
Now, standing here today, standing across the world, people standing for Tommy, you doing that, one, shows that we care about free speech, but also will be the reason. It will keep Tommy alive. Because he may have to sit the rest of his sentence. But the fact is, if the government thinks they can get away with it, they will have him killed. They want nothing less than him dead, silenced. And it has happened in the UK. Last year, a man was jailed for throwing a ham sandwich. I think he should have been jailed because I would have wanted to eat that ham sandwich. Don't tell my rabbi. But was it bacon? To me, pigs are all the same. But he was thrown in jail and murdered in jail for throwing a bacon or ham, one of the two, sandwich at a mosque. He paid with his life. Now, Tommy, last time he was there, he almost paid with his life. Inches of his life. So you standing here today, we may not succeed in getting Tommy out today, but we will succeed in keeping him alive, and we will succeed in letting our government know you will not get away with this in Australia. You take Tommy to jail, you may as well take us all, because we will not be silenced. Hey, Tommy, Tommy! Tommy, 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 Tommy Robinson! Hey, Tommy, Tommy! Tommy, 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 Tommy Robinson! Hey, Tommy, Tommy! Tommy, 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 Tommy Robinson! Hey, Tommy, Tommy! Tommy, Tommy, Tommy Robinson! Hey, Tommy, Tommy! Tommy, 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 Tommy Robinson! So we're going to wrap it up here. I want to thank everybody for coming here today. Tommy, Tommy, Tommy! Tommy, Tommy, Tommy! 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 Message to Tommy and his family. We stand with you. Australia stands with you. Look at it. Look, Melbourne, Australia on a Saturday morning. We stand with you. Aussie, Aussie! Aussie, Aussie! 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 Thank you very much. Please, guys, bring the signs back in. We've got to rush out of here to the airport. Thank you very much. Thanks, guys. Good on you. Thank you so much for coming. Good on you. Look at that. Saturday morning in Melbourne. God bless you, Australia. We love you. Tommy, we love you. Get the crowd a little bit and we'll... Thanks, guys. Yeah, where are they? Yeah, dude. Thanks, guys. Good on you, guys. Good on you. Thanks, guys. Well done. Thank you so much for coming. Ask Ralph. Where's Ralph? The big boy. Keep up the good work. Thanks, guys. Good on you. Thank you so much for coming this morning. Thank you. Look at that beautiful young and stand with Tommy. Thank you so much. Respect. Enjoy the weekend, guys. No, thank you for coming. Thanks, guys. Well done. Thanks, brother. Good on you.
Good on you, mate. I didn't realise you're a smoker, but you can have that, brother.
I needed something. No one had cocaine. I got to be careful when I start going to get in trouble. Great job, man. Saying that was a joke, guys. Thank you so much for coming, guys. Well done.
No one can stop you, right?
Thank you, brother. Thank you. We're together. We're a team.
You'll be Prime Minister one day.
Prime Minister. Inshallah.
Make it up. Thanks, David. I was in the over 35, so.
Good on you, man. Thank you, Tommy. I wish.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming.
Safe trip.
Thanks, brother.
Good on you, thanks.
Thank you for all you do.
Thank you for coming. Thank you. We're a team. Thanks, guys. Thanks, brother. Yeah. Quickly. Thank you. Good on you. Thank you.
Avi, with my son on a photo with you.
Jesus Christ. Are you going to be as tall as him? Can you guys capture us in the same frame? No. Got it? One of them should work. Quickly, let's go.
Cheers for your help today, brother.
Hey, Tommy,
You probably have to do anything else. Filmed a concert last night.
No, you nearly got a photo of me instead.
Got it?
Oh, fuck your phone up. Hang on.
Thanks.
I think one of them worked. Just check it quickly.
From the people of Langlang in South Gippsland.
This is a special work.
Yeah, we did it. Like a
Good on you for coming out. Thank you so much, guys.
And I'm happy to contribute.
Thank you so much.
Thanks again, man.
Thank you.
Can you say get up out of bed next time?
Get up out of bed next time. Unbelievable. You missed out all the fun.
I'll delete your photos. Tommy fans, love you, man.
Really appreciate you doing this.
Basically doing what they're doing and starting to figure out who's with what.
Yeah.
David, you were the one that had
The glasses, yes. Yes, that was me, yes.
That's right. I saw you then. I went. I recognised you.
I mean, all of them, so I always wave. If you want to wave, hi guys, how are we doing at home? Hope you enjoyed the rally. Yes, that's right. Go on.
No, it was controlled outrage. It was kind of a sensationalism. Yeah. No. As I said, it's over 50%, but well over. Yeah, well over. They won't spend that.
That's pretty cool, it's a gyro.
He's the only left.
Avi, where are the stickers, man?
Thank you very much. You guys. Yeah. It's the family.
When do I get a sticker to put on my car?
Take it.
You have a good flight to catch up later.
All right. Guys, do you notice that she's taller than me?
Everyone's taller than you, Avi.
She's a heightist.
Thank you.
See you later, guys. Thank you so much. All right. Good. Bring it on me. All right, we're moving on. Follow us through the day. Share the videos. Next Sydney, 3:30 in, where is it? Macquarie. Matt. All right, check out the event or my last post. See you in Sydney at 3:30. Love you all. Tommy, we love you. Free Tommy.